What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to NXT Round Up. We've got a returning face, the wonderful, the Mr. Wonderful himself, Kris Gale. Welcome back to NXT Round Up 2.0. It's great to have you back on board, mate.
Thank you, Piers. I can confirm I am indeed the son of Paul Orndorff.
There you go. I don't know, man. I'm throwing out nicknames left and right here. I don't know what's going on. It must be the COVID, but I am the COVID kid himself, the dad bod god, the bald, the beard, the fucking beautiful Piers Austin. And again, I'm really excited to be back doing an episode of NXT Roundup. It has been a couple of weeks, and it's been an impressive couple of weeks what NXT's been doing. To be honest, I think they're actually been on a roll the last couple of weeks with the shows that they have been putting out. Really good lead up to, Stand and Deliver and the WrestleMania weekend and WrestleMania week. And I think it's always that big feeling around this time of year. And I think that everyone's out to put on amazing matches.
Absolutely. A little bit of feedback there. I hope that's not the COVID coming through the microphone. For example, as you know, I have a little bit to do with Pro Wrestling Australia, as do you. And pretty much our entire women's roster, as we say hello to Robbo, g'day Robbo, is over for Mania. So I'm excited for them because there's a whole cabal of PWA performers there, meeting up and enjoying the Dallas experience, or as we heard it referred to by Indy and Persia, the Big D.
The Big D, yeah, exactly. And we're going to get into that. But before we go any further, we got to take a quick second to thank those sponsors that help us keep the lights on up here. And first up is healthvape.com. If you or someone you know is a smoker or a vapor, you need to get on a healthier lifestyle. You need to check out healthvape.com. All of their products, no nicotine, no addictive or harmful chemicals. And Chris, they're actually vitamin infused. So what Alan Funk has told me, that's like vaping a Red Bull. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but he swears by it. Guys, check out Health Vape. Like I said, no harmful or addictive chemicals. Use promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Also, guys, make sure you check out sleeps.com. That's SLEEFS, sleeps.com, your one-stop shop for all your athletic wear and needs. They've got compression pants, compression sleeves, compression shorts, compression socks, headbands, boots, mouth guards, and they got those dirty boxes that I'm always raving about. So check out all of their products over at sleeps.com. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Pardon me. I think I'm losing my voice a little bit there.
You're very husky, and it plays quite well for a late night show.
It does, doesn't it? But getting into the show, man, for NXT opening up, we see, for Stand and Deliver, Imperium making their way out to the ring. And to me, I honestly see like Imperium when they're in like the three of them coming out to the ring, like that is an impressive entrance. Like it's a real, like these guys look money. They're big guys. They come out to the ring. They present themselves. They look like champions. They present themselves as champions. All three of them, even though like Gunther obviously is not a current champion, but to me, they are that old school feel of a wrestler, if that makes sense. You know where I'm going with that?
They reflect really probably the archetype of a professional wrestler when I first started following it in the 1970s. And Imperium, what can I say? They're impressive. By the way, if I at the beginning of this, if I wanted to give you an impression of the overall show, I wanted to run something past you.
Sure.
Now, you probably missed it, and most people have, but there was a little bit of a contretemps of brouhaha and imbroglio at the Oscars involving Will Smith and Chris Rock. I was more concerned about Mitch Barnett's hit on Chris Smith in the Newcastle Penrith game, but that's just me. And did I correctly hear Wade Barrett at one stage refer to Will Smith's big cock energy? Was that my imagination? Because it's not a bad way of thinking about the show, because there was a little bit of blue stuff that we'll come up to. And maybe that was the energy that was driving us towards, because you also may not be aware of this, Piers, but there's a show coming up called Stand and Deliver. Because I would argue that this show was pretty much a billboard for Stand and Deliver.
Cuck energy, I think.
Cuck energy. Thank you, Robbo. But I reckon I heard what Wade Barrett wanted me to hear. That's what
Well, you know what? I think NXT is really starting to step those lines of not full blown attitude era where it's like, going the MA 15 plus route, but they're dipping their toe in, and they're not doing it at a consistent basis. They're doing it here and there, and there's these little bits and pieces. And I think you've seen that with some of the romance angles where there's been those little blue comments, which for kids would go over their heads, but for adults, we'd sit there and go, wait a second. And I think that that's where they're really sort of finding that place for NXT to sort of trial that sort of stuff out before they start doing that on more of a bigger stage like Raw and SmackDown. Right.
Yeah, most of it goes over my head, but I will point out a couple of examples of big cuck energy as we go through the card.
Absolutely. But Imperium, they're going up against LA Knight and MSK. Now, interesting enough, like Imperium are the heels here, and this is where like this isn't a diss on the performers. I think this is a diss on whoever's told them this is how this needs to go down, because Imperium are the heels. They're the ones making their way out to the ring. Then the baby faces jump the heels from behind. Kind of a heel move. You know what I mean? Like that's where my view of it's coming in. Like, why would you have your baby faces do that? Why wouldn't you have your baby faces make the entrance, have the heels jump them, get more heat for that match, and also more heat going into Stand and Deliver by having more heat on Gunter and Imperium? Then, you know what I mean? Like, then having your baby faces looking weak, because that's ultimately what I think it looked like to me.
I can see your point. Two things that I would say. First of all, I did do a bit of research, and I wanted to come up, because I'm in the camp that I love the name change to Gunther from Walter, and I said I wanted to come up with well-known Gunthers in history. And seriously, they were pretty arcane. The people, there's like physicists and harmonium players and things like that. It hasn't really dominated on the world stage, but I actually thought, in terms of the matches, I actually enjoyed this match the most. I will be honest, I kind of felt a lot of the matches sort of struggled a bit for relevance because we're all catapulting towards this big event, and that's understandable. But I love the concept that, in a way, LA Knight and MSK and Imperium was still fighting from last week. Like, they actually haven't stopped for the entire week. And they kind of reference that. They go, hang on, this is how we finished last week. They're still going, right? And so it felt very frenetic. And when you throw in the mystery, and it's a real mystery as to who assaulted the Creed brothers, there was just a sort of a sense of chaos that, to me, I probably kind of made sense. Like, eventually, baby faces like Will Smith, they crack. Love makes you do funny things, Piers. And MSK just cracked. But I tell you what, the thing that absolutely stands out for me is how much that audience loves LA Knight. They absolutely love him. And because, as I've said on this show before, I see him in terms of his promo ability, a bit of an amalgam of Steve Austin and The Rock. You've got to be really good to pull that off and not just be called a copycat or like an inferior version.
A light version of those two, yeah.
He is like unstoppable right now. And, I feel confident in praising him because I do know that Grayson Waller beat him. So last man standing. But I really like the energy of that opening. And it was a bit of a bait and switch. I think Robert had a view that just appeared on the screen as to what they're doing, getting MSK over, but it was great.
Yeah, and you know what? Talking about LA Knight, you mentioned LA Knight. And I'm going to say this, and I've mentioned this before. What's the one difference between LA Knight and every other performer who has had a name change, who came in with a name or had a name and the crowd chanted? Like, what's the difference between those performers and him?
He's got his own Xbox. I have no idea.
No one chanted Eli Drake at LA Knight.
Uh-huh.
He came in probably.
No one sort of wanted to go, I'm on to who you were. They just
like more of like say for example, Walter's more known to the indie European crowd, where LA Knight was probably more well known to the American mainstream audience. He was an Impact World champion. He was on Impact. He was an Impact World champion. He's been around countless companies. He's been around for a long time. He's known as Eli Drake. He came in and got LA Knight, which sounds like basically an 80s porn star name, and got it over. And that's the difference. I think he was able to get that over, where I think some of the other guys have started to struggle to get the new gimmick name over.
It's actually a great name because it is evocative of that era. It's very 80s. You think about Knight Rider with David Hasselhoff. Again, I go back to when David Hasselhoff was on The Young and the Restless, playing a character called Snapper, well before the Berlin Wall came down. But also that sensibility of that Ryan Gosling movie, Drive, and just that sort of, he does sort of embody the name in a really, really clever way. So, props for the switch, and I think he handles it really well.
Oh, absolutely. A huge shout out to the Future Shock. This is what he's here for as well, tuning in. So thank you, JT.
I'm hearing all sorts of things about the Future Shock. Like, watch this space. The world can be knocked off its axis.
We should get Future Shock on for an episode of NXT Round Up, I think.
Jiminy Crickets. But it'd be great. I mean, you and I won't have to talk. He'll just do the whole thing. It'll be fantastic.
That's it. But look, overall, this match with Imperium, LA Knight, and MSK, great. I thought it was an interesting mix of styles between all six men. I think the match was a good build up to the storylines going into Stand and Deliver. The match itself, I actually found myself getting lost in it from time to times, which I find is good. If I can sit there and be like, oh shit, I'm supposed to be taking notes and actually get into the match. I thought this was the match of the night. I think it was a good match to open the show with. I think it was a solid match to really sort of, get the crowd pumping. And I think, a great start to the show.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I wrote down the words high octane. There's nothing very original in that, I guess. But, and also, as I said, this show to a degree is a little bit on a hiding to nothing. I mean, you're not going to, give away too much of the household when you've got this big show coming. So it walked a difficult line. And, at times it really felt like the matches connected the promos rather than the other way around. But first match I thought was a cracker.
Yeah, and we saw Imperium going over there. So heels over strong to start off the show. Then we see Dakota Kai walking around looking for Wendy Chu, and then finding her pillow all torn up and stuff like that. So
imagine if it was Wendy Chu's gone missing, and imagine if it was her that assaulted the Creed brothers. Now that would be spooky. But
she goes back into the old gimmick, and then her and Boa just appear in goth.
It really, I mean, they've got to completely review their security arrangements there at the Orlando Training Center, because there's all sorts of nefarious things that seem to transpire. And I'd be quite nervous. It's like walking down a dark alley at midnight in that joint. You just never quite know what's going to happen to you.
Oh, exactly. Then we saw Ivy Nile versus Tiffany Stratton.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of this match?
Well, I was thrilled that Tiffany Stratton got face planted, because unlike my, he's known as the other voice of PWA, Andrew Rose. I'm not hugely over on the sort of, Legally Blonde type, LA, Valley Girl type thing. She's definitely got a sort of, I guess, a gymnast background. I mean, she's certainly got some flips and some spins, but I was happy to see Saray appear and lead to the distraction that got Ivy Nile the win off the submission. But I was primarily happy to see Tiffany get the face plant, and I love Barrett's little touch that it was a total screw job. Ooh, big cuck energy.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? Ivy Nile is honestly one of my favorite performers. She just looks like a little pit bull. You know what I mean? She looks legit, and you know what? They're not chucking her into like main event spots. They're how they bring her along, having her there with like, Roddy Strong, and in that Diamond Mine thing, she's protected as well. And I think the way that she's been performing in the ring in the matches that she's been having, that she's not. I don't think they're protecting her, but I think that they're making her look as strong as possible. But they're not doing it to the point where she's indestructible just yet.
Yeah. And I like contrast too. Like, she's not particularly vocal, goes about her business. I think, again, Robo's all over it. I think that her understated approach is quite refreshing, and you also wonder. She's thinking, where do I fit in Diamond Mine? Like, at times when other, the Creeds are out there or Broderick Strong, she seems superfluous, and I think she's, how do I take this? How do I get myself fully established? So right now, she's just going about her work, and total screw job or not, it was good to see her get the win over Tiffany.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And she's still undefeated. So they're still booking her strong in a way, but not sort of skyrocketing, which I think is probably the best thing for her. I think the match was okay. I think Tiffany Stratton really wasn't given much in this. Like, she basically took a beat down throughout the match. To me, it wasn't any really big shock surprise to have her lose. I think, this match, probably Ivy wasn't the right opponent for this. Why not put someone in there like I'm just trying to remember her name. She usually wrestles every week on NXT and gets squashed, but she absolutely sells her ass off. And putting that performer in there against Tiffany Stratton and getting that win up there and getting like a surprise win where that means something a little bit more, and Stratton's going on into Stand and Deliver to wrestle Saray, with now just having a loss to someone that she should have beaten easily. You know what I mean? Like, I think it just tells more for the storyline that way personally, but I digress.
I'm all over Saray. I hope that she gets the W. I mean, Wade Barrett also referred to her as a pitbull, and there could be a great cross promotion because they're kind of in Florida. I mean, Mr. Worldwide. I mean, it'd be great if he turned up and did an entrance song for her or something like that.
Amari Miller. That's who I was talking about. I agree. I agree. That would be a terrible move.
Future Shock and Robbo should just take over.
Yeah, they can take over NXT Round Up. I'll stick to shooting the shit.
Right. We'll watch.
Yeah, we'll throw the comments in.
That's right.
So, but look, overall, I thought it was an enjoyable match. I just think Ivy Nile was the wrong opponent, and that's not a diss on Ivy Nile. I think it was just the situation could have called for a bit more of an upset and make that loss mean something more for Tiffany. But then we saw Tommaso Ciampa doing one of his promos sitting backstage. This is being, him saying this is an end of an era, him coming to an end of his time in NXT. If this is a way to write him off television for like a month and bring him back, cool. But if this is a way, like, his contract is running out and in 3 weeks' time he's going to end up over in AEW, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if AEW signed him to have him go down to and be a part of the new Ring of Honor, to be honest.
Okay. And he's taking on Tony D'Angelo, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm a huge Ciampa booster because, as you know, I'm not down with D'Angelo and his God Soprano antics. But, I mean, it was quite personal. I mean, we referred to the fact about his wife having experienced 5 miscarriages and happily finally culminating a daughter. It's extremely personal. And I do think that's that really interesting blend of what happens in professional wrestling. Like, it sort of took me back to Johnny Wrestling's sort of farewell speech. And, and right in the middle of it, he said, all I know is when that boy is born, I'm going to love that kid like nothing on earth. And then he gets whacked by Waller with a chair. But it was very personal. Though, on reflection, would I have done that speech in front of a roller door? I mean, it just seemed like such an odd place for him to be. Like, Tommaso, just come over here, just near the garage, and then pour your heart out.
Yeah. But that's his whole thing. That's how he's done his gimmicks and stuff, like how he's done his promos before. And then he'd usually throw the chair behind him. This time with the chair being the day to Stand and Deliver. So,
and look, I'll say, I mean, I sort of remember the original NXT format, and Barrett was referring to Nexus, and I had a sort of a vague idea of what he was talking about. But I've really watched NXT more recently as I've been more involved in the business. And, he made reference to Black and Gold. And, I mean, he does really embody what that period of the company was. And he's got a genuine legacy. And I have to say, I've come to enjoy him more and more and more as a performer. Like, I really like him now.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed his stuff that he did back in Ring of Honor. And and it's like the psycho gimmick wasn't too far off it. I'd definitely recommend you go check out the stuff he did in Ring of Honor around 2000, early 2010s, like maybe 2009 to 2010. Like his stuff that he was doing back then was amazing.
And tell me, if you're invited to a party, come as your favorite wrestler, you could just about get Tommaso Ciampa over.
Yeah, I probably could, mate. But the thing is, I don't have the body like Tommaso Ciampa. So
yeah. But if it's dull, it's dim lighting,
yeah, who knows? Just paper bag over their head. I can.
I've always wanted to do, and I haven't abandoned this plan. With my natural hair color, as you can see, I've always wanted to go as Goldust to a dance party or something like that, and one day I'll find the right leotard to do it.
Well, that's what my wife's thinking about doing for my 40th, is having like come as your favorite, like having a dress up party. It's like come as your favorite wrestler. I'm like, I don't want to look like a mark or anything. She's like, why? It'd be fun. I'm like,
well, I want to throw in the mix Goldust. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, I'd do it just to see you just coming as Goldust. I could go as Mick Foley easily. I just put on like the flannel, maybe a wig. But look, I think the Tommaso Ciampa, promo, as you said, it really got personal, it got emotional, talking about the miscarriages and stuff like that. I can't diss a performer for taking a promo there on a personal level. I think he did it in a classy way. If he was comfortable to bring those things into his business like that, you definitely felt the emotion. I felt that it was done in a classy way. I don't think it was done in any sort of distasteful manner.
I didn't think it was exploitative at all. I thought it was good.
Yeah, no, I thought it was good. But yeah, I think Tommaso Ciampa's time is limited, and I'm predicting he'll be signing with AEW, and he'll go down to Ring of Honor and be one of their. I think he'll be there, pretty much like the flag bearer down in Ring of Honor, to be honest.
I mean, because as you and I think both appreciate these companies and the relationship they have with their fans, and I mean, we know how vexed professional wrestling can be, but when it's going well, there is a sense of family about this stuff, and I think I think when you get to that point where you reflect because of whatever milestone's happening, like you're retiring or whatever, and you sort of think about the relationship and the support that you've had and the opportunities, and maybe it didn't go exactly as you liked or whatever, but I think you probably do want to share. But as I said, the beauty of professional wrestling is Johnny Gargano talking about his impending arrival of his first baby. It gets absolutely poleaxed by Waller. That's the beauty of the business.
Yeah, exactly. And only in pro wrestling could something like that happen and be perfectly okay, where there would be no repercussions. The following week, the next day, immediately after, just like walk straight out, hop in your car, drive off, done. See you next week, champ. But then we see a Dolph Ziggler video package. The show off Dolph Ziggler. And I've got to say, this run in NXT has really given him like another shot in the arm, really. I find like he wasn't really doing much on the main roster. He was kind of just floundering in the back. They weren't using him. They weren't using Rude, which I think are two amazing performers, both on the mic, both in the ring, and setting him down to NXT and to be able to do this spot. I think Dolph Ziggler, it's given him an extra shot in the arm, and his level of performance being like now the veteran, talking down to like Bron Breakker is like, yeah, kid, your first WrestleMania. Yeah, well, the media wants to talk to me, kid. You know what I mean? Like he fills that role of like the arrogant veteran really, really well. And I think in a generation where he still can connect to like the younger millennial part of the crowd. Whereas like I think if you had someone like back in our day, like an older veteran like a Ric Flair coming down to that sort of thing would be like it wouldn't really work. But I think he was the perfect guy to come down from the main roster, wasn't doing much, came down here, give him a run with the NXT title, give him a run with Bron Breakker as well to really see where Bron can really go from there as a performer.
Look, I think it's really good, and it's a different take than just a while ago. Like SummerSlam is when Raw takes on SmackDown, right? And then is that the
Survivor Series.
Survivor Series. That's it. You know, I knew there was an S in there somewhere. And a couple of years ago, pre the pandemic, they had NXT, right? And so they were exposing that company in that way. They've obviously got a different take on it now. I mean, the lines are much more clearly drawn, but I think like the run with AJ Styles and Waller was great. And Ziggler is really good because he actually talks about very accurately how he's perceived. Like he strings off all the titles and he goes, I've done 18 WrestleManias. It's no big deal for me. You know, I belong here. And he goes, am I bitter? He goes, yeah, I'm bitter. And it's because there's something about Ziggler that positions him as not an all-time great or something. And his CV is astounding. And I mean, I saw a bit of that archival footage. And again, I apologize. Not really familiar with his early run. What was he, Greg or something like that? Or
no, he was Chavo Guerrero's caddy,
right?
And when he was first introduced, because during the time, Chavo Guerrero was doing a gimmick called Kerwin White, where he was basically pretending that he had no Mexican ancestry and that he was a complete Caucasian and that he was a golf. And what's the widest thing that a sport a person could play? Golf. So that's why he had him as the caddy. And then Dolph ended up going on to be part of the Spirit Squad.
Right. Yeah.
And then obviously eventually, went on from there. But Dolph has been in the system for a very long time.
Right. And he's always got that chip on the shoulder that sometimes applies more broadly to the business. And it's great. Like, it's kind of like, I just done everything and still, yeah, I'm bitter. And I really, really enjoyed it. The golf thing is funny, by the way. There was that guy, Andy, who's been on Australian Survivor a couple of times. And the first time he just told all the other contestants, yeah, I'm a golf coach. And of course, he created a story that was not sustainable. They started, picking holes in it. Like when he said that there were 23 holes in a round of golf and stuff like that, it kind of fell over. But it's great to see Ziggler as caddy. I really enjoyed that. But I actually enjoyed that promo very much.
Yeah, I thought it was a good video package for him. And I think Dolph is still a guy, like he's got to be in his close to mid 40s and, can still go at a very, high level. I think the perception of Dolph, as not being one of the, as some people would say, and I'm definitely not saying this as him not being one of the greatest of all time. You look at the times where he's had main event runs, and to be honest, I don't think you look back at those times where he has been put in a main event picture or a world, title spot. He hasn't really been given much to flourish with it. It was like a very quick turnaround, a hot potato of the title. I think both times he won the world title, and they just hot potatoed on him both times.
I remember that.
Yeah, I think it's just he's a person who's just unfortunate, circumstance and being that guy at that time that they need.
But longevity is something if sufficient quality comes with it, and I'm sort of, enormously attentive to what he's doing at the moment, because I kind of go, you're really one of those solid dudes who's, done so many different things and accepted so many different roles. And I assume because he just loves it, loves the sport.
Oh, 100%. But I thought the video package of him was done really well. Next, actually, this match to me was another match to me which I was really impressed with, which was Legado del Fantasma versus Jensen and Briggs. Jensen and Briggs coming out with Fallon Henley, and Legado coming out with Elektra Lopez. This match, a lot of cool spots. The 450 catch at the ending going into the choke slam. I thought that was really cool and unique.
Yes.
I'm a huge fan of Legado, to be honest. I think that those three guys and even Elektra Lopez, they are just amazing at what they do. Yes, they do lucha libre style moves, but they don't do them consistently. They can get in there, they chain wrestle, they do the flips and the high spots when they're needed and when they make sense. They're not always like flipping around the ring, just doing spot after spot after spot when they're doing that, it makes sense. Like when they're doing the tag and roll into the ring and the back and forth. That to me, I really enjoy that spot. But I thought overall this match was really
where
good.
he was horizontal on the ring post and then just dropped.
Yeah,
Amazing.
that was crazy.
They were dominated though. I thought Jensen and Briggs had the running most of this match.
I thought they looked good. I thought Jensen and Briggs looked really good in this match.
And where are they going? I mean, like, I don't mind the old school. It's just Brooks Jensen and Josh Briggs. But can you see a team name emerging? The Good Young Boys, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, Briggs and Jensen. I mean, that I think they would have given them a name if they were going to be honest. But I think that the team as well. The only thing I'm kind of getting a little bit like over is like the love angles. Like they kept mentioning Jensen, going, oh, and even like in there, I'm not sure if you noticed it or not, but there seemed to be like a moment where Elektra Lopez walks over and Jensen's on the outside of the ring, and they have like a moment, and he gets back in the ring, and I'm just thinking, we've just seen that with her and Zion Quinn. Are we going to see the same thing?
Yeah, I have to say that she's my favorite female performer at the moment on the roster. I think she's real quality, Lopez. And this, of course, was the match where the expression "big cuck energy" got a roll, because Barrett was pointing out that you've got to be careful about relationships and being distracted. Maybe the single life is the way to success in professional wrestling.
Robbo can heavily relate to Jensen and his dating failures, though.
I don't believe that. I think Robbo's talking himself down. I mean, the guy is a good guy, and I don't think he has any trouble getting out there. I think he's talking himself down.
Oh, there you go. Legado with good lucha things. I think Legado definitely can come in, and their aerial moonsault, their lucha style definitely works in well with what they're doing. And I think their style is very much like a Lucha Libre 2022, you know what I mean? Like hybrid style, really. Like I wouldn't even call it 100% lucha because it's not, but it's definitely like a hybrid lucha style to some degree.
Yeah, right.
But next we saw Backstage Indian Persia arguing over who is the hottest couple in NXT. Is it Duja or Index? So, Chris, I'm going to ask you the hard questions here. Are you team Duja or are you team Index?
I'm definitely team Duja because I've had the opportunity to call a number of Persia's matches in the past, and I know that, as they kind of referred to in the storyline a little bit, her time over in WWE was delayed by COVID. So, I think you go through that period where something happens to you where you go, look, I think I'm going to be able to get to this place, and then you don't, and then anything can go wrong in between. So I was really, really thrilled that she got there, and she's been making such an impression. I think they said it's a Texas side showdown or something like that. I mean, it's obviously going to be an online vote, and I think that Duke and Persia are specials, Pierce. But it was interesting to work out, what is the big D? Is it Dexy? Is it Duke? Or is it Dallas itself? I mean, it will be a Texas side showdown for sure.
I love both these women as performers. I think they're both great. I think given the fact that this storyline of having them feud, I don't know if it's the right time. Just looking at look at the women's tag division in NXT. Like it's I think even look at NXT's like WWE's women's tag division, really. Like it's not exactly stacked filled with teams right now. And I think, why are you taking an established team that can work pretty well together and splitting them up to have this feud, which kind of has a little bit of silliness around it to me, like the love thing. Like it's not a real.
There's no doubt about it, but of course the counter argument is when they had the makeout session on the canvas, TMZ got hold of it, and it went viral. And that is the dilemma, isn't it? How do you get eyeballs? How do you attract an audience in a crowded world? If I'm Indy and Persia, I'm hoping that I'm wrestling against it. That becomes the focus of what I'm doing, because that's actually what I'm sure they both love. I have a very fond memory. The first PWA show I went to at a Parramatta RSL in the January of 2018 with the other voice of PWA, Andrew Rose. And it was a hot summer's night. And I remember walking in and being blown away by what I saw. But Indy was wrestling Shazza McKenzie. And at one stage, she got bumped out over the top rope. And she landed right in front of where we were sitting. And she just goes, "Where am I?" And she was representing Melbourne. And now she represents Australia. And I'm just looking forward to seeing them back in the ring. That's really what I'm looking forward to.
100%.
Is it they call this the Samoan drop when Persia has two, and she's a Samoan drop two?
Yeah, she does. Does she do a Samoan drop in two? Yeah, I think she does.
That's one of those things that you say to people. That's what I'm enjoying. Look at that. Robbo and I are at the same show together. I think I bought him a drink and he still owes me, but that might be just my imagination.
Robbo, make sure you get even on that round with Chris. But next we saw Cameron Grimes doing a backstage interview saying that he needs to do this. He needs to win this triple threat match. He needs to go on to stand and deliver to win the North American Championship to fulfill this promise that he made to his father.
And can you explain that to me? Is his father known, or is that just like real story? Or
so pardon me. His father was a professional wrestler in the North Carolina area where the Hardys came from. He came up with Matt and Jeff Hardy, his dad, Cameron Grimes' dad, and was part of Omega, which was the Hardys promotion that they started when they were kids. So Cameron Grimes has that connection. So his dad was a wrestler back in the mid 90s. And his father has since passed away. So I think that they're bringing that into the storyline. They're making, I think, Cameron Grimes, which is, gone from being the sort of jovial, to the moon and giving him a very gimmick heavy sort of thing, where now the gimmick, I think, is being pulled back a little bit more and more of a genuine backstory of the individual playing the character that they're incorporating in.
I agree.
Which I think it makes the character more realistic.
I agree. I think they're making him more reflective about what his motivation is and why he does it. And I think they're making him a sympathetic character. And just a Carlton draft. Thank you, Robert. Maybe with a dash of lime in it. Depends how I feel. And I think they see him again in that relatable category. I think the sort of the frippery that went on maybe with DiBiase, though anytime you get to see DiBiase is a good time in my view. But I do feel that Cameron Grimes, you always want people in your company that people go, not that I could do that, but they go, I could be him. I can or her. I kind of feel where they are. And I actually have enjoyed that change. And that really stood out to me, what you just said, as to what they're doing. I thought that was a good summary of what they're doing.
Yeah. And I think it's, to me, if I'm predicting this, not to sort of get ahead of ourselves, I'm predicting Cameron Grimes will go on and win the North American Championship. Just to
Piers, I was going to save it up till we got to the end. I 100% agree with you.
I think they'll give him the big moment, and then I think he'll drop. I don't think he'll have a long run with it, because I don't think that the baby faces, necessarily can pull off being long-term champions. I think heels are much more being the faces are much more being the chaser than the hunted. Yeah,
I mean, and look, it pains me because I know who I want to win, but I think the last person in, the backstory that they've highlighted, that of course is a great narrative that had to win that three-way in order to get the opportunity, and they sort of infer that it's almost the hubris of Carmelo Anthony that created that opportunity. So there you go. We'll see how we go, but I think you might be right.
Then after that, we saw Toxic Attraction coming out for a promo. What did you think of this promo?
Yeah, I always root against Toxic Attraction. That's how how it all plays out to me. And when Dakota ran out, right? Is that right? Am I remembering that? And then
Dakota came out.
because they were showing some of the collateral damage from what had happened to poor old Wendy Chu, who could be, being held against the will by the people who assaulted the Creed brothers, for all we know. And Dakota Kai makes a poor decision to come out 2-1, but then Raquel Gonzalez evens it up, and I have to say Gonzalez is sort of up there with Lopez for mine. I think she's such a different look, as a wrestler and as a female wrestler, and I think she really brings something. So I was happy to see that Toxic Attraction, who was sort of saying there's no one that can take us on, has been backed into this corner, and it's going to end up in a tag team title match against Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez.
And this is where, like, I think, this promo to me was started off. It was like, so. I think Mandy got lost at a time in the promo as well. There were moments where she sort of went, and we're standing in the ring with these two, and it kind of went a little bit like.
Right. So that was, I think, a reflection of we were going to end up with the fact that there's going to be a tag team title match, but the three of them came out, and Mandy sort of going, I'm taking on or come as though you kind of misunderstood what I was saying. And these two guys are great, and they're still going to be great. And so it kind of, I guess we're more used to the fact that the three of them coming out because both their belts were going to, or championships were going to be on the line. And we had to sort of backfill that. It's a different take, but it probably wasn't natural because I think Mandy was having to, I've got to keep remembering that no one knows that they're fighting or something like that.
And look, I just felt like it was a little bit just, I don't know, like it just lacked, like it just seemed very flat to me. And I don't know why, it just to me was a very flat promo.
I tell you what they could do though, in cross promotion is the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks and rugby league here in Sydney have gone back to what they now call PointsBet Stadium, which is down there in the Shire. And it's basically built on a mangrove swamp. And my podcasting colleague, Dennis Carnahan, was there the other day working for the ABC, and he said it absolutely stank, the toxic swamp. And, maybe some cross-promotion between the Sharks are back at PointsBet Stadium and Toxic Attraction are encouraging punters to come back to the game. That I'd like to see, because PointsBet Stadium is also a toxic attraction.
I agree. But look, I feel like Dakota Kai came out, after they emptied out Wendy Chu's stuff, they wrapped their promo up. Dakota takes a beat down. Gonzalez comes out, as you said, makes a save. Gonzalez goes for the fist bump, and then Dakota slaps the hand away and goes for the hug. Like it didn't feel like this long ago, like Dakota was smacking Gonzalez in the back with a shovel. And like now they're hugging. Like, dude, if you have smacked me in the back of it, like with a shovel, I'm not going to be hugging you.
Yes. As Wade Barrett pointed out, Dakota has three different voices in her head. So Raquel is able to understand that
which one she's talking to at that particular time, so she watches out for the third.
And in this world where we're so concerned about doing bits on issues that can be quite serious for people, and I understand all that concern, but still, it's not such a bad story that there's multiple Dakota Kais going on, and your explanation is right there that it wasn't all three of them that hit her with the shovel, and she could see the bigger picture, and hence the hug. And I hope they go on and steamroll Toxic Attraction to Stand and Deliver.
That's a big call.
I hope Toxic Attraction to stand and then just roll over. That's all I'm saying.
So going back, Robbo reckons Grayson's going to win the ladder match. Always allows a heel to heel switch without it. That would be the thing for every Australian that would be going for. But I think it's Cameron Rhimes' time at Stand and Deliver.
I'll be in tears if that happens.
So that goes into our next spot, which is Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams are backstage, interrupted by your boy Grayson Waller. What do you think of the clear shirt by Grayson Waller there, mate? I think I could see you wearing that at a PWA.
No, I can't rock that stuff. As you can see, I'm wearing a Joe Gacy myself. But you've got it, wear it. I have mentioned to him that if he and Sanger ever tag team, they should be called Vegemite Sanger. But we'll just see how that goes.
I love it.
But again, what we got, as we would expect from Grayson, the next example of big cuck energy was, of course, mine is bigger than yours. And Trick and Carmelo had to sort of sift their way through as to what he was referring to. Were they referring to the relative size of the bodyguards? Or were they referring to the relative size of their condos?
That's it. That's the big question. But, I think regardless, this ladder match, I think, is going to be the match that seals the show at Stand and Deliver.
Well, like you think about Grayson's time, and he's, and he loves reminding you, like he jumped off the cage in the 2 cage match, but there have been these sort of iconic spots. And so I think he will be eating up this opportunity for this ladder match to be really, really memorable. And, I wish them all well, because, I've seen a couple of ladder matches live, and it's trepidatious to say the least, Piers. So I admire their endeavor and their skill, and I just wish them well.
Next match we had was Von Wagner with Robert Stone versus Bodie Hawkes with Andre Chase. I'm going to let you take it away. What do you think of oh, by the way, we had Jacket Time doing Japanese commentary for this match.
We did. And then Sophia Cromwell. I haven't heard that name since I was doing modern history back in high school. And she's apparently somehow in the ambit or orbit of Robert Stone. So, you really needed a program to follow what was going on, didn't you? There were just so many personalities. And Andre Chase was out there as well. It was a tad confusing. Cutting through all the clutter was, of course, Von Wagner absolutely gave it a Bodie. And am I right in thinking, was Bodie rocking a Jack J. Bonza head ribbon?
Yeah, you know what? When I saw that, I straight away I thought of Bonza straight away.
What a moving tribute, and it brings something that I've always maintained, that Jack J. Bonza from PWA is worldwide. He is like effectively Pitbull. He's the other Mr. Worldwide, and it's just a heartwarming tribute to the great man being paid. But Von Wagner, like he looks like he really needs a spa session or something like that. He looks recurrently unhappy, and
he does, doesn't
he? And he just goes, just let me get through this match, and I'll go find something else to be angry about. I don't mind it. I quite like it. And ripping the jacket. Jiro's jacket. Oh, my God. They said disrespectful. I thought it was criminal. I thought that's actionable. If Waller could get hold of those cops that he got in to try and enforce the apprehended violence order against LA Knight, if those police bore witness to that act, Von Wagner would have been carted off in the paddy wagon.
But you know what? I'm really enjoying Robert Stone partnering up with Von Wagner. This has kind of been from Von Wagner being that goofy sidekick for Aaliyah and a couple of others. Like, you remember him getting thrown in the trash by Rhea Ripley in NXT a couple of years back. This is a moment for him to really sort of to go into that serious manager type role. I even think Von Wagner going into this with more of a storyline and giving his character a little bit more depth and more meaning has made him as a heel mean more. Like, why am I supposed to hate you? Okay, you jumped Kyle O'Reilly. O'Reilly's no longer here. Why am I hating you? Okay. And this is why, like, he's getting his heat. He, like, the way that he was moved in the ring, he's more aggressive. He moves with meaning now, whereas before it was like,
this
sort of seemed like he was going through motions.
Yeah, you're a big Robert Stone fan. I don't think you want Robert Stone to manage your affairs. You're always.
Oh, I definitely do. I think Robert Stone is great, and I think as a performer, he's just as good as well. Like, you look at when he was wrestling back in TNA and Impact. years ago as Robbie E. He's a phenomenal worker.
TNA used to be on cable TV here. It's not anymore, is it?
No. Now you can find it on Fight TV for $9.99.
Is it Taz? What was the name of the commentator?
Mike Tenay was there. Taz was there.
Taz, I love Taz.
Yeah. I'm the Australian Taz, apparently.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's what everyone comes up and tells me. I look like Taz's double.
If LA Knight is a verbal amalgam of Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, you're an amalgam of Taz and Tommaso Ciampa. Come to life.
There you go. I'll take it. I'm the Wish version of Taz. But look, Von Wagner and Robert Stone. I thought this match with Bodie Hawkes was going to be a squash match, and it definitely wasn't. I think Bodie is a big dude as well, and him and Von Wagner, they just beat the living piss out of each other for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was just sort of one of those old school big men deals, wasn't it?
Yeah. And these guys actually move pretty well.
Yeah. Robert, that's the American Piers Austin. I tell you, Robbo's on fire tonight. He really is auditioning for your job. And he's right about Bonza and Pitbull never been seen in the same place. And but I did actually a few years ago now, I saw Kesha at a Future Music, and I'm pretty sure I saw Bonza backstage. And she basically took that idea for that country and western number that she did with Pitbull, and he just appropriated off Bonza, because Bonza's quite handy with just give him a little MIDI keyboard and a couple of software programs, and you've got yourself a hit, I think.
There you go. A bit of auto tune never goes wrong.
I'm telling you, if we can somehow manufacture a tag team involving Jack J. Bonza and Pitbull, like that, that will raise us head off.
God damn it!
Please, somebody book it.
Somebody book that shit. But next, obviously we saw Von Wagner going over here and destroying Jacket Time afterwards, and destroying Jiro's jacket, and really destroying a part of Jiro, which is his jacket.
Can I say, do we suspect that might have been a dummy jacket? I mean, like I would expect Jiro.
That jacket was gimmicked up, brother.
Exactly, because I expect Jiro. I mean, he's classy, and I think that his milliners would be absolutely, and his suit makers would be absolutely top class. And to see the jacket crumple like that was very upsetting for me.
Oh, 100%. Then we saw a Tony D'Angelo vignette and video thing.
Keep going.
You didn't like it.
I look. You don't have to love everyone, Piers. And I'm sure Tony's a lovely man, and he's very, very good at what he does. I'm sure he is, but I just couldn't be less interested in
really?
in the whole Sopranos.
Chris, he says so many nice things about you. I thought,
I know, and I mean, I appreciate that, but you talk about, you get lost in things and you start taking. You forgot you meant to take notes. I'm writing an essay when Tony D'Angelo's speaking because I'm not listening.
Oh, mate. Look, I thought his vignette was somewhat decent. He's saying, he's going to be the Don of NXT. Again, like this gimmick when I first saw it, and I keep going back to calling things a comedy gimmick and stuff like that, or a heavily gimmicked performer. And that's what I saw this was going to be, like a very tongue-in-cheek, like, hey, forget about it. You know what I mean? Like almost like a Crime Time version of an Italian. Mm-hmm. But this is actually shown like a very, psychotic side of him. He wants to, it's more to it than just being a gimmick. If that makes sense. Like there's more to him than just that. Like he's more to it than just being like a Santino Marella. And I'm not doing it because they're both Italians, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's more than just a stereotypical gimmick. Yeah.
And I'm probably not doing it justice because, as I said, I tend to switch off. But like, here's an idea for you. Most of the great mob movies are made about the Italian mobs, right? Like The Godfather, and Goodfellas, and The Departed, and things like that, if I'm right in saying that. I actually took the time, and I had to do it episodically, I must admit, because it's a very long movie, but I watched Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in America recently. And that stars De Niro and, an incredible cast. But it's about the Jewish mob in New York. And, it was very interesting because, you know, a number of the tropes are very similar in how things were run. And, you know, this particular group were in their heyday during Prohibition or whatever. And, you know, put that as a twist. Have a sort of a mob feel to a character, but coming from a different background rather than the rather predictable Italian one. You know?
Yeah.
You know.
No, I agree. I think that there's a definite way that they can do that. And I think that they're kind of doing that with Solo Sikoa as well a little bit, you know, being the Samoan street fighter type of thing.
Yeah, which is really interesting, isn't it? Because that beautiful heritage that Samoa has in relationship to professional wrestling, the big challenge is, he's just another Samoan wrestler. You know, so that is a real challenge, and it can feel like a crowded field. So I'm always gravitating to some, you know, how they always say basically what we're witnessing is just, you know, our own personalities turned up to 11 or 12. You know, exactly. I think the most successful professional wrestlers actually do that, but they're able to really put a personal stamp on it that gives it that authentic feel. And so far, and, you know, I'm listening to you carefully, Piers. I'll give D'Angelo another go, but I just keep defaulting to, I know what he's going to say. I know what he's going to do.
Stereotypical. Hey, forget about it.
You know, like, and you've always got to go beyond that. There's nothing wrong with being an archetype, but it's in what makes you different. I think, you know, within that, it's some, in the end, will be whether you rise or fall. I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think it's up to the individual on how they can take a character and really make it their own. I think it's up to the individual how they can catapult it. I mean, you got to do your best in what you were given, I believe. Yeah, and it's like you, as a performer, you have to take what you're given and put your vision into it, and hopefully, it's the same vision of what the promoter's telling you that what they want. But I digress. Next up, we had Joe Gacy versus Draco Anthony. This storyline,
I don't know. I can't remember where he has the top button done up, but this is a Gacy shirt.
That is a Gacy shirt. I think this is a good way that they've sort of blended this little storyline together for Draco Anthony and Joe Gacy, as far as Gacy trying to recruit Anthony. The character in itself is like with Gacy just gets creepier and creepier, but we did notice there was another guy on the outside staring down Harlan throughout this match.
Right.
And the way he was looking at him was like, I don't know, it was kind of weird to go like sometimes like, you know what I mean? Like I don't know what the fuck that face is.
Well, we do need a little bit of development from Harlan, don't we? Because basically, so far it's a one note. I'm about to explode, and I'm all for them taking that a little bit further. But he certainly wasn't required in this victory of Gacy over Anthony. What did I say? I think I called him Carmelo Anthony before. That's my basketball team when I met Carmelo Hayes. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. But look, I like the addition to the guy on the outside. The story's progressing. You know, are we going to see Draco, you know, going and partnering with Gacy? I would like to see Gacy form more of a stable.
Yeah, so it's a rich area, and the local company that we both have a connection to, PWA, there are similarities with the SMS faction, and
a lot.
Led by Unsocial Jordan, who has a particular set of values that doesn't really accord with what would generally be the values and attitudes of the fan base. But I like the fact that he actually has a point of view and that he takes wrestlers into his stable and makes them, first of all, better wrestlers. And then you can argue whether they're better people. But in our situation, he's taken the likes of Aaron Jake and Belinda Pierce and lifted their game. And I think Gacy, you may not like his politics, but if he actually is able to create a stable of wrestlers who perform at a higher level, it's hard to argue with. Now, the fact that he might be a serial killer is another thing, but I mean, it is the thing. You can't get away with the Gacy name. I mean, it's the same as, like, you know, the somewhat discredited Marilyn Manson band, where they were, you know, their first names were models and
they were serial killers, right?
Twiggy Ramirez, etc., etc.
Twiggy Ramirez but the funny thing is, he's a phenomenal bass player too. So
yeah.
But we found out the Steiner brothers are going to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. And they finally acknowledged Bron Breakker as Rick Steiner's son.
They sure as hell did. They sure as hell did. So that was great.
Except they said it was Scott Steiner's son.
Yeah. I do like how Bron Breakker now sort of is self-appointed spokesperson for NXT, and he's sort of railing against the FIFO, the fly in, fly out attitude of Ziggler. Like, I'm here the whole time, paying my dues, and giving back. And I think Bron Breakker, because of his heritage, whoever's son he is, he was a little bit on a hiding to nothing coming into this, right? And particularly because they fast-tracked him at a blinding speed. But he hasn't really disappointed, has he? He's been pretty good.
No, I don't think he has. I mean, like taking the title off him, I don't think, I hadn't even heard of anything political happening, so I don't think it was anything there. I think it was just, try and boost the ratings. Ziggler's got a name, bring Ziggler into NXT around WrestleMania time, create some buzz, put the title back on Breakker.
Yeah.
But we saw Nikita Lyon versus Sloane Jacobs.
Yeah, I blew some cash on this.
You blew some cash on this match?
I thought Jacobs was a lock. I tell you what, they reference Nikita Lyons' Muay Thai background, and that actually is probably the central appeal of what I'm seeing from her. The sort of the overblown woo-ha-ha stuff and yelling and whatever kind of leaves me a bit cold. But when she does the spin, they're blindingly fast. I mean, that's bringing that discipline in. It makes that potentially interesting. It also is my final example of big cuck energy when I'm not sure they've actually come up with the name yet for her finisher, but when she sort of straddles the fallen opponent, and Barrett said she got her glory shot. So I don't know what to say about that. It's just NXT likes to go. NXT obviously went Technicolor a while ago, but it likes to be a little bit blue. There is a bit of blue in that logo I see up on the screen.
Just a little bit.
You know what?
But you know what? But you know what? Nikita Lyons and Lash Legend are probably two of the physically biggest women in NXT. And you know what? I'll even probably go as far as to say on the WWE roster. I think that match will be spectacular. But Nikita Lyons looks like a star. Like, she looks phenomenal. The striking is good. The only thing that I think is that lets her down is the camera work after her matches. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like there's times after her matches where she doesn't know the camera's on her and she's standing kind of awkwardly. I think that they need to control that from a back end a little bit better and probably produce that a little bit better, because there's no reason for her to be on camera after the match, after she's done her final pose or thing. That should be it. Okay, now go to the next segment, go to the back, give her time to get the fuck out of the ring.
Right. Well, you and I both know finding the camera can be a bit of a challenge at times.
Of course.
and so it's practice. So I'm sure that stuff can be addressed. I have to say, though, I think I want Lash Legend to win.
Nah, I'm going Nikita Lyons all day. I'm a Lions guy.
Yeah, well, I'm a loyal Legend fan. What can I tell you?
Well, there you go. There you go. But then we see a Diamond Mine promo. Malcolm Bivens, sorry. Malcolm. Hey, man, I've got COVID. It's late.
Yeah.
That's my excuse for
We're heading to the end. Thank God we've already talked about what's going to happen in the last match.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Equally, I think you want Robert Stone and Malcolm Bivens to both pitch you to be your manager, because you're a bit of a Bivens booster, aren't you?
I am. I think that the one thing with Bivens and the Diamond Mine, I would not have or see any of the other Diamond Mine members speak. Just have Bivens be that mouthpiece.
Yeah, the Creeds aren't quite with it yet. Well, they were pretty stiff with the thing about, they got the message from, the guy who they concluded with the guys who potentially assaulted them, and it was quite clunky. So they need to do a little bit of work on the verbal, that's for sure.
No, I definitely agree. But we had the main event, the triple threat match. The last attempt to go into Stand and Deliver, Cameron Grimes versus Roderick Strong versus a Kid.
How are you going with A Kid as a name?
It's kind of very generic.
Yeah, I struggle with it because it just encourages cliches like "a kid, a loser," stuff like
But
that.
like, what happens when he, like, in 10 years' time, when he goes from looking 25 to looking like 35, 38? Is he then going to be a kid to a middle-aged man or a
Well,
man?
that would be fun.
Yeah. A guy.
A
But
working.
this match, Chris, to be honest, man, very quick start to the match. Honestly, it felt to me like it wasn't really a match, but it was more of just spot after spot after
Totally,
spot after spot
totally.
after spot.
Yeah,
There was no psychology, I found.
yeah. I mean, I think the last couple of matches were pretty perfunctory, and obviously this was just setting up who's that last person going to be. You had all the protagonists around, and of course, at the end, bedlam ensued as they all invaded the ring. I actually I sort of had to go back and look at the replay as to, all right, Grimes came flying in and got the win, and I really do feel, and I say I think it was a difficult line to tread, but you've got such a big iconic event coming up as part of the overall Mania experience. They're almost like rushing to the finish, and I think if you're a wrestling fan, for the pure wrestling, this was not the greatest episode for you, but nor did you expect it to be, I think, because you want to save some of your glory shots, Piers, for Stand and Deliver.
Oh, 100%. Pivens needs a booster seat. That's pretty ruthless. Nikita Lyons, I like restraining with Nikita not having a wrestle every single week. Yeah, look, this match to me, as I said, it just seemed like spot after spot. Cameron Grimes getting the win. To me, it felt predictable. I think if he goes on and wins the title, it's going to be a very predictable ending to the match. If they throw a spatter in the works, I'd probably say they'd have Carmelo Hayes retaining it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it's just funny that you and I independently concluded. Robbo's gone for Grayson Waller. Who knows? I feel that Sokoa won't win it. I think I'm pretty confident in that. But Escobar's been doing good work. It'll be good reward. But there'll be something slightly askew about this. I think something will happen.
I think it's been long overdue for Escobar, to be honest. I think he should have been given a title run.
So who would you like to win out of the 5?
It's a hard one. It's a hard one to pick. I'd probably, part of me would say Waller, because I'd like to see Waller have a run with it. But in all honesty, I don't think Waller needs it.
No. He just naturally.
I think Cameron Grimes needs it.
It just seems like that's where that story is going. But it will be spectacular, and they're a bunch of great performers, and they're also quite distinct in. We're not looking at 5 similar wrestlers. We're looking at different styles, different takes, different physicalities. I'm actually really, really looking forward to seeing this one.
Yeah, no, me too. But that has been NXT for the week. This is the roundup before going into Stand and Deliver. Overall, Chris, I thought this was an enjoyable match. As I said at the start of the show, NXT the last few weeks has really been able to sort of have some pretty spectacular shows, in my opinion.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, to hear what you and your guests have to say about the shows. I very much enjoy some of your other work as well. I saw a great interview with you and PPK, aka Nikki Van Blair and Frankie B, on Shooting the Shit recently. I thought that was absolutely superb as we learned about the sistership. So NXT is lots of fun at the moment, and looking forward to Stand and Deliver. And if you don't mind, Piers, can I put in a plug at this late stage for our next show, PWA's King of the Metro, which is our Rumble, Saturday, 23rd of April at the Metro Theatre in George Street, right in the heart of the Sydney CBD. It's a blend of seated and standing, so there's a stadium effect. The venue is rectangular, but it goes back in tiers. It should be through the roof, and you can get your tickets on ticketek.com.au. You don't know how long I've been waiting to say that about a show. Get your tickets at ticketek.com.au. King of the Metro, a rumble, and all sorts of other issues needing to be resolved on that particular evening. And we've announced so far that the Velocities get a chance to get their belts back from MK Plus Ultra after they put it all on the line at our last show and were bounced out the back door pretty quickly.
Yeah, so guys, make sure you check out that PWA show, King of the Metro. That is going to be a phenomenal show. PWA always deliver phenomenal shows, so make sure you tune out for that. And get your tickets or get it on Fight TV, where you can find all your PWA shows, past and present, up there on Fight TV. And definitely check them out. But guys, without further ado, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like, share, comment wherever you are finding us. As long as you are finding us, that's the most important thing. If you are finding us on a podcast platform, please give us a 5-star review. It helps us, it helps you, it helps us get to more people and grow. But also, guys, huge shout out to our sponsors, healthvape.com and sleeps.com. Use that promo code MWAPod to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. But ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for us to wrap up. It is that time for us to leave. It has been an absolute pleasure sitting here with one of the voices of PWA, Mr. Kris Silvertongue Gale. Thank you for joining me once again for NXT Roundup. It is always a pleasure to talk wrestling with you, sir.
Thank you, Piers.
We'll catch you guys next week. All the best. Take care, and all the best. Boom.